I was watching this video on TED Talks last night. To Be Serious had recommended it to me because it was, well, apart from anything else, it contained the phrase sacrificial lamb, which I've been talking about in a couple of videos recently. But it was really about the training of suicide bombers, young suicide bombers by the Taliban in, I guess, in northern Pakistan. Very, very distressing and depressing video. You know, interviews with these young lads who, you know, just basically couldn't wait to blow themselves apart, and some still images of kids who had done that. You know, and they looked to, I don't know, 13 or 14, something like that. These lads who'd taken out a lot of civilians by strapping suicide vests to themselves, and it showed the training process. And it was, yeah, this woman who was giving this presentation identified the 5 stages. I can't remember exactly what they were. But it was basically the classic 5 stages of cult formation. You know, you separate the person from their friends and family, you put them into a highly intense emotional situation, you make them kind of accede to the wishes of an authority. Yeah, kind of classic brainwashing kind of stuff, really. Self-esteem, so that the only way to improve their self-esteem is by going along with the wishes of the particular organisation, which in this case was the Taliban. And I think that was fine. I mean, there were some of these interesting things about it. What surprised me, I guess, was how easy it was. I mean, I know it's easy to brainwash anybody, apparently, if a number of cults are around, there's anything to go by, but how easy it was for these kids, and also how the particular look that these kids had. It reminded me of the same look that you found on those kids in that documentary Jesus Camp, which is a similar, I mean, they're not training suicide bombers, but it's a similar kind of set of ideas, you know, to do with the indoctrination of children towards a certain kind of religious attitude, which will, you know, foster certain kinds of behaviour. And in the case of Jesus Camp, you know, you went away there for 6 weeks or whatever it was, and were indoctrinated day and night, and love bombed and all those other techniques, and threatened and given peer group approval and all that kind of stuff, and authority approval for behaving in certain ways. But again, I was struck by how easy it was, and also, again, as I say, by this particular look. Look isn't quite the right word, actually. But what struck me was how focused these kids looked. You know, how mature and how purposive. And I'm making it sound like it's a positive thing, but I really don't think it is. But you know, they seemed very mature, these kids, on both Jesus Camp and on this thing about the Taliban. They seemed to have all the qualities. I mean, apart from the content of what we're saying, they seem to have all the qualities you would want of a, you know, of a young, upwardly mobile, entrepreneurial, purposive, community-spirited young person. It seemed to me. I mean, if the things they were saying were to do with things we approved of, rather than, you know, blowing up civilians or worshipping George W. Bush, if it was those kind of things, we'd probably think, oh, what a sorted-out young man. What a, you know, he's really got his shit together. He's not vague. He's not, you know, he's not walking around with a hoodie and mumbling whatever. You know, he's really got his crap together. And it was that thing to do with purpose, I think. You know, we admire purpose in certain fields of our existence. In other parts, we don't. You know, and it's so weird, purpose, I think. You know, I'm reminded of that Rick Warren book, The Purpose-Driven Life, which is a Christian book. And how the whole context of it seems to be that, you know, to find fulfillment, you find a purpose larger than yourself, which in Rick Warren's case is a kind of biblical purpose. And obviously in the Taliban case it's a Islamic purpose. In the Jesus Camp case it's again a biblical purpose. You find a purpose that's larger than yourself. You invest in that purpose, and that's a kind of higher good. You know what I mean? That's considered to be a higher good. And certainly from the point of view of those people who are participating in it, the children in this case, it seemed to evidence qualities in them which we tend to admire. You know, we like people who seem purposive, usually, as long as we approve of the purposes. And certainly from the people involved in it, you know, the children in this case, but other people who talk about purpose, you know, they talk about their own sense of purpose as being a good thing. You know, that they become more than themselves when they find a higher purpose. And it is associated with things like happiness. I know Martin Seligman talks a lot about this, about, you know, satisfaction of life correlates with adopting or allying oneself to a higher purpose. And a lot of in a general sense, I think a lot of the things that we do value and the things that we find greater satisfaction in is even in just things like joining teams and joining clubs and joining societies and joining political movements and joining religious movements and joining, you know, ideological movements and those kind of things, allying ourselves to a larger purpose or a higher purpose. You know, we feel fantastic, we look fantastic from the outside, or at least focused, and our activities are associated with those purposes. I think it's oversold, really. I worry about that. I think purposiveness is a bit of an illusion, really. Not an illusion exactly, but I think it's something that we should be careful of. I think thinking you're trying to ally yourself to something larger than yourself, which is a bit weird concept anyway, you think about it, is a dangerous activity. And I don't know why we would applaud it so much. I think I like those people like Groucho Marx, you know, who would never join a club that would have him as a member, he says. I applaud that, really. I applaud the idea that purpose, goals, achievements are something that we should be really, really careful of. Particularly when we join forces to achieve communal goals. I'm sure there's exceptions, of course, but I do think it's something that we should watch out for, because we do, you know, those goals always have, there are always martyrs to those goals, whatever they are. There's always sacrificial lambs produced in the pursuit of those goals. That's something I feel a bit queasy about.